Good evening and welcome to the shop. Tonight we're going to talk about getting glued up. We're going to do that tonight by gluing up one of these outdoor benches in various stages. So hey, check out my bench over here. It's not all glued up, but this is how it's going to look. I'm very happy with it, and one of the things I love about this bench is just how comfy it is. It has that nice curved lower lumbar support for your back, and this arm is nicely sculpted, and the seat has a bit of a wave in it too. Now, the inspiration for this, for even making an outdoor bench, came from obviously the hanging swing, but more than that, I remember when I was working with Pug Moore down in North Carolina, every spring, it was a kind of a ritual. He would go into his museum room, he called it, where they used to sell antiques, and he'd come out with a white outdoor bench. And I was looking through some old pictures today, trying to find a photo of that bench so I could show it to you, and I just couldn't come up with it. But I was trying to remember how the lattice work worked in the back. But he built that bench almost like a piece of furniture. And I remember the arms being something like this, you know, so they had the curve like that. But the one that he built was in mahogany and painted white. And, you know, he pegged it, he did everything. It was really a sweet bench. And it has like a hearty strength to it that is inviting and just says, hey, come take a seat. And this one presents some challenges because it's got a lot of parts. I counted them up. I think there's 28 individual parts here. You get 16 just with the slats in the back. So overall, not a ton of parts, but everything is mortise and tenon together. And as I shared with the neighborhood last Friday, it's all joined, and all the joinery was made on the multi-router that we're making this video for now that Woodpeckers is manufacturing and selling the multi-router, and it's really a cool machine. When you have multiple joints like this, you have to kind of strategize and think, okay, how can I glue this up? And a lot of us work alone in the shop, but the way you can live in isolation in your hermitude without talking to a soul is to strategize about gluing things up. And so I want to show you that the process where you can break it down a little bit and make it a little faster and less stress to get everything done. So for this particular bench, you've got the sides are joined together all with mortise and tenons, which I'll show you in a few minutes. But all of these back slats, rather than having floating tenons like I did on the outdoor swing project, they're real tenons. And I was able to make those real tenons on the multi-router because of the setup, and I'll show you as well in that video. But it was enjoyable to make because I just used a little riser block to hold it in position so I could cut those tenons accurately on the ends. Well, here's one right here, I'll show you.
Is this Cypress, Tom?
This is all Cypress, yeah.
Okay.
So it's really nice to work with. It's relatively soft, but it has excellent weathering properties. I'll talk about how I'm going to finish it near the end, but what else did I want to say about it? Oh, this is the integral tenon that we've got here. So that's obviously cut on a machine to get those rounded ends. So I really like it. It came out well. Every time you do something like this, you're wondering when you first clamp it up, are those shoulders going to really pull up tight? And they did. They pulled up beautifully. And if you like this, I didn't mention it, did I? About you can build this. We have the full-size drawings of this, and so everything I do, oh, here it is, here.
In both the swing option and the bench option. And there's also an online course that goes with it, several hours of Tom taking you step by step through the build of it.
So we've got 16 slats on the back, and that's a large, complex kind of feature. And in order to simplify the glue up of something like this, we're going to be gluing it up from the innermost out. Okay, so this whole back assembly, I like to get done first. Then we'll glue up the sides individually, and then we'll glue the front rail and center stretcher or center rail in to assemble the whole thing. So this one is not actually glued up yet. It's always good to test fit and do a dry clamp up, which I already did, so this will clamp up nicely. But this whole back assembly is glued up and the both sides are glued up. So I'm gonna come back to that one. Let's just focus on the back assembly, and I'll only be showing you one side of this so we don't take too long. But here we are. Now, when you're working alone in isolation, you can help yourself out with your good friend, Mr. Vice. Mr. Vice is your buddy and offers a helping hand whenever you need it. So I'm going to set this over into Mr. Vice's jaws and lock it in. And there we go. Now we've got this whole piece is ready. Now, one of the things you want to do before ever starting to spread the glue is verify all your tenons are fitting nicely. Now, I've already gone through these and checked them all. See, they fit in. I don't want to fight any of them. You don't want them to drop in like freely, but you know, where they're so sloppy that they drop in. You want to have just a very light pressure fit, especially for these. These are not structural. They're really just kind of captured between the lower and the upper rail or the crest rail of this seat. So, all right, so most of these are done, but this one is tight. So come on around the front of the bench.
Okay.
You can just rasp this. You can just hit it with a little sandpaper if it's light. But one of the ways I like to go faster is with a little shoulder plane. And just by, I think that was a 2 shoulder plane tightness here. So I'm going to check that. No, it's a little snug still. I'll bring it back. And okay, that fits nicely. Now let's go to these last 3. All of these are done, I'm certain of it. And I already fitted all the tops the same way, so I don't want to fight with those. Especially you're trying to line them up and you got to glue all 16 of those in at one time. So there we go. All right, so that one is fitting nicely. Now let's check the last 2. That feels like just a little sandpaper. And see the last one. Okay, that's a little snug. So we'll hit that with the... So the shoulder plane is really not meant primarily to skim shoulders. It's a low angle plane iron in there, and it's beautiful to adjust shoulders of tenons. The shoulder is that horizontal piece there. This is the tenon itself, and that's a cheek and a cheek. I'm using it on the cheeks right now, and it works really well for that as well, but that's not where it shines the most. There you go. Okay, we are ready to glue up. So I've already fitted all of these into the crest rail. So here's where you got to get organized for this. Now, there's a lot of joints to fill. That's 16, and to glue it up well, you want to get glue on both the tenon and into the mortise and spread before assembly. So that would be 16, 32, 64 like applications if we tried to do both at once. But no, we're going to break this down into 2 halves because we're by ourselves in the shop, right? So especially if it's a hotter day, we're just going to leave the tops dry for the first half, and we'll just focus on getting all of the tenons at the bottom glued in, and then we're going to assemble the top as if it was glued so that everything cures in perfect alignment. Then once that's cured, we'll knock off the crest rail, and that would then get glued up. I'm not going to show you all of that. Now we're going to use Titebond 3 for this. It's a waterproof glue with the Titebond line. It's easy to use, cleans up with water, but you could give yourself ample time if you used another type of glue. Like some people like using epoxies on this type of outdoor application. It's just too messy for me, and it's quite viscous and adds to the, getting things together. But it does give you a lot of time. A lot of them are 30-minute to, you can get much longer open times with them. Here you got a plenty comfortable open time. This has like an extended value. Now I'm just going to go down the side walls of each of these mortises. We're going to move right along here, and I'll turn around and come back the other way. Just get a nice line.
Gotta love the mustard top.
That's the actual top.
No, I think that's a mustard.
No, it's not.
Really?
No, this came with it.
Oh.
Am I wrong, everybody? Doesn't Titebond? I don't think I switched it.
I think I brought out a mustard top one day.
Seriously?
I could be wrong. Been known to happen.
Oh yeah, look at that. There's a Titebond. Maybe that is a mustard top. It is.
A homespun remedy.
What am I doing with a mustard top? I don't know.
That was me.
That was you? What are you doing?
Giving you some TLC.
I didn't know you were even involved with my glue bottles. What's going on here?
It is French's. You're right, Will.
It's French's, yeah.
Or just our local place.
Great Poupon.
What about a polyurethane glue?
I was afraid someone would ask me that. I actually, I've done so little with polyurethane glues. That's something I want to look at more. Tim Coleman, a friend of mine, furniture maker, he was here at the Epic Weekends last year. He actually uses it a fair amount. One of the nice things about polyurethane glue is there's no water in it, so you don't have to worry about expansion and contraction and things like that. But while I'm talking, I'm just spreading a little glue on the tenons here and plugging her in. Okay, I'm just going to go one at a time and move right along here while I'm talking. So plus it foams up and can be a little messy. How about someone else who has experience with polyurethane glues? I'm usually, so much of it is ideal for typical woodworking glues, PVAs, polyvinyl acetates like these, but I haven't got a lot into that.
You want to field a question that's unrelated?
Unrelated? Sure.
A little bit.
Maybe.
What's your opinion or knowledge about the difference between a biscuit joiner and a plate joiner?
A biscuit joiner, let me make sure I understand your terminology. The plate joiner, is that? Someone's going to have to clarify. I know I've read that. Is that the domino type? The tenon style? I know the typical biscuit joiner is like the wafers that Norm used to always use, right? But I'm a fan of the domino. I love those floating tenons, and that's how I built this the first time. I just cut all of these back slats or splats to exact length, so there was no tenon on there. And then I just made with the domino whoops, I gotta get a little glue in there. I made the floating slot, so into the corresponding, it made it super easy, you know. But these, it's kind of nice to have true tenons here on these back pieces. This is just another way to go. And then there's the biscuits where you can use 3-wing cutters, and you can get all different thickness of the 3-wing cutters and make your own biscuits, you know, sort of like that, you know, like a 1/4 inch thick. I'm talking about, do I have any set up here? Talking about 3-wing cutters that, you know, you can have wings like that to cut your own slots using, I don't see it. I gotta keep moving.
I'm getting word that the two things are the same, that the names indicate the same thing, different names for the same thing.
Okay, plate and a biscuit. That's what I was thinking. But those offer you some strength, but they're very helpful for alignment as well. So it depends on the situation, you know.
So you're not concerned about glue on the shoulders, it appears? Think that'll come up?
No, I'm not. I'm getting squeeze out here. You see that? So it's getting on the shoulders. I'm going to elect not to clean that up right now, but I'll get it with a chisel after it's cured a little bit. So I'll show you that on the other one in a minute here. But I'm getting more squeeze out, maybe because I'm rushing. Yeah, there's plenty of glue in there. Getting a little line on the front as well. So that's a nice connection there. The top one is going to be more or less protected from the weather, so not a big deal. Now these slats are asymmetrical. There's more of a curve in the lower lumbar, and then they kind of have a softer, so you got to make sure you get them in the right position. All right, so now we've got that. Now we're going to get the top rail on. I got to make sure I have this position correctly. And you got to start at one end with this type of thing and just get it started on this and work your way along one at a time. It's kind of tricky because you can only go so far, and it could pop up and you lose them all. But I've got like 5 of them about. Now you just keep moving. Now you imagine if you spread glue on both sides and you start. So this is going to simplify the process. Given that I have 3 benches, it's not stressful at all. Like you could just do 1/2 and then come back to this one by the time you're around. There we are, nicely together, and all those are seated, but let's get it out of our vise. Now, before we put the clamps on, I'm gonna just pop on one of the legs on the outside. That way I can keep those tenons aligned. Just make sure that I don't torque when I put the clamps on here, that I don't like twist these tenons out of position. I don't think I'm going to, because the sum of those tenons is quite strong. But it's not a bad idea. These shoulders, they have a way of almost self-squaring. So I'm going to get these across, and I'll throw a couple long clamps on just briefly. Make sure the shoulders pull up tight. All right, so let's just throw this on here now that we've pulled up all the shoulders, and we're just going to crank this on. Beautiful. That pulls up sweet.
You're going to glue the top rail on later, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do here, is just simplify and break down this glue up into a little less stressful situation, you know? So we'll get this one clamped up there. Just gonna move it over to this bench here. Yeah, that's not bad. Let that set up a little bit. Let's bring in another one that I did earlier. Here's one that we had clamped up earlier. Let's get it in here. And let's get a chisel, and I'll show you some of the glue issues. So come on over here. So you can see where I've got a little squeeze out on the back here. Now this is outdoor furniture, so you're not as stressed out about it, but I would just come in. It's nice to get it if you can get it while it's not super cured. And then it'll just clean it right out of there. You know, I got a few of them like that. You could go in there with water, but I didn't want to get a lot of water into these joints and raising all the grain and everything.
So before PVAs, Tom, what did they use?
They use hide glue on interior, and prior to that it was mechanical fits like pegs. You know, so this outdoor bench, I do actually call for pegs. So I'll show you in a minute here that I've got these nice 1/4-inch oak pegs that go into all the key joints. So it'll really be overkill. But you get the idea. You're just going to clean the glue off. Comes right out of there. This is still a little rubbery from earlier. This has been glued up for about 2 or 3 hours. So I just want to show you what happened here. Come on and look right down the line here.
Sure.
The camera. After you take off your top rail, now you've got all the bottom is glued in, and all of these are quite rigid, but look how perfectly aligned they are. Now it's a simple process to get glue into all of these mortises, and then come on up and you'd spread and brush glue on all these tenons, and then just fit it in just like I did a minute ago, and get your clamps back on, and there it is, stress-free. You've got your whole back assembly glued up with no worries, right? So I actually have to
gotta show that.
I'm not going to glue this one, but I would just get glue on there, same way. It'd be the same repeat, and then you come and you start setting them in. You still got to do a little aligning, even though just to get them started into those mortises, but they're right where you want them. There it is. All right, so that will glue up beautifully. Notice how I subtly radius that top, so when you put your arm around your girl, you're gonna be comfy right there. Then you've got this, you boil this now down to 4 tenons that need to be glued into the back. So this greatly simplifies the glue up process. You're gonna glue up that back center, and then each of the ends. So this is the jig I made for the actual back legs. So these both the back legs get skim cut like that. The slats have a similar, but you just have that subtle little S curve, and I have the front and the back of those. So it's similarly made like this with a stop at each end, and you've got your clamps that hold it down going through. I must have put it back upstairs.
What about pegs? Are you going to put pegs in there?
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna, not on the back slats. Those are so small and they're captured. The structural joints, like the sides. So let's do one of the sides. Actually, I need one of these legs from here. This is.
Do you know what kind of wood you're going to use on the pegs?
I'm making them out of oak, just for fun. White oak. You know, white oak's
Square?
weather resistant. No, I will, I actually would whittle them like I did these. So I start out with a square stick like this of white oak. So it's just a 1/4-inch square. And then I take a spoke shave or a block plane, and I just spoke shave the corners off till I create roughly a octagonal piece like that. And then I just soften the lead edge, and now I have a good old time peg to drive in there. Just drill a 1/4-inch hole, and I drive the peg. See right here, we've got pegs in here. So this style peg was drilled a hole and drove it right in there, went right in through the tenon. Same here. here, and here. So this is hardy, honest furniture. I mean, that's a real peg going through a true tenon, mortise and tenon, and we've got waterproof glue in there. So it's really overkill, but you know this is never going to be coming apart. It's just super strong, and those big shoulders in there have a strong aligning capacity to them. So this is one of the side assemblies. We need to glue these up individually. Now, I had it all test fitted up. That's a very key element of gluing up, that you test fit and make sure everything pulls up. And when I disconnect, I always turn the mortises up of what needs to be glued. See, there's two here. I only want to glue this mortise here. So here's my side rail. You can see the structure of it. We've got a nice tenon on each end, and then that sawn curve for the seat slats to sit on so that you'll have a nice kind of dished out seat. And then this is the underside of the arm, and you have a nice full tenon going into the back leg here. That's going to go in there, and just a super strong arrangement. Now, again, we're going to use the vise as our friend to hold this back leg. We used to always use brushes at Pugs, and this one I chopped the bristles off short, so it makes a nice little glue brush. Now I need to get glue in all of these mortises. Double check, yep. And then I'll get it on the tenons and we'll pull this together. So this makes it pretty stress-free. We're just going to do one side at a time, and this whole thing will add up quickly.
How long are the rail tenons, Tom?
All the rail tenons are 7/8 long by 3/8 thick. We always just made them 7/8. It gives you a good amount. You could go an inch if you wanted, but it's really not.
I know we got the Cypress from Goose Bay. They're participating in this.
Yep.
Do you remember what the pricing was on that?
I don't. It's not a terribly expensive wood, especially if you live down in the south. Can anyone chime in down there? Especially you Florida, southeastern state guys and ladies. I don't know who's.
And how does Cypress compare to white oak? Michelle's saying they used white oak to
Oh,
build theirs, and it's super heavy.
yeah, that's the thing. The white oak is great and durable and all that, but the Cypress is lighter and it dents much easier. So it's a trade-off there,
right?
you know. But let's go ahead and get glue on all these tenons.
It's saying $7.75 per board foot
Wow, that seems a lot
per A-quarter.
for Cypress. Wow. I guess it's been a while since, but
It's been a while that you had to buy it.
yeah, that's true. But
Just a few weeks ago, you went to pick some up.
yeah, that's right. That's right. But Goose Bay is donated the lumber for this project. Good friends at Goose Bay.
They're great. If you can reach out to them, they'll help you. David
Yeah.
got his from there, he said.
Yeah, they got everything. They're great to work with too. A lot of good exotic woods as well.
In Chichester, New Hampshire, you can look them up, Goose Bay Lumber.
Yeah, they
can
will
put the
ship,
link
but
well.
you know, sometimes it's not worth paying the shipping. But they have a lot of smaller exotic billets that ship easily, and that's pretty nice. But you know, to ship larger materials, it gets costly with the weight factor and everything, and you know, even they would probably advise you to, it might not be worth it. But in smaller bundles, yeah, that ship's great. But it's great to visit. People go there from all over New England. All right, so I'm getting good glue on the shoulders as well. and we'll get squeeze out from the tenon, so everything will come together. All right, so I'm going to assemble first the side rail into the front leg. Then we'll get the arm tenon into the arm mortise. See, I made a mistake there. I had to plug that one, but that's going to be all forgiven here as I get this assembled. And now I can just go right down into the leg. All these big shoulders, it's really self-aligning. And these tenons, mortise and tenons, man, they fit so good. And it's just beautiful. Everything. Oh, I guess I could.
John's suggesting that new cypress is not water resistant, only old growth cypress is water resistant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had. This has some. I got a little variety here. Like some of these pieces are super dense and would be, I'm sure, considered old growth. The growth rings are so tight, like on the arms here. But then this leg piece, not as impressed. So I'm going to saturate like epoxy on the bottom of that to resist pulling in moisture. All right, so I'm first tightening this in. I can see that post tight. Got a nice seal all around there. I'm going to reposition in the vise. Let's get, I don't need that big one. Oh man, that's nice. That pulled up solidly. All those shoulders look great. And now I just got that last one. And for this, I'll just set it down here for a minute. And I use these angle blocks. See up here, I'm going to be clamping onto an angle. So I have these from other chairs that I've put together. It just helps to shift the angle of this. Now that wants to slide, so I just spit on it. Or you can wet it, and that makes it a little tacky. And you can tape it there too, but
you share all the tips and tricks.
It's gonna want to slide. Yeah. You can use water from your glue bucket, but usually you don't have time to go over there. All right, so there, I've got this in position, and I'm gonna just snug it right up. We wanna see this shoulder right here pull up. All right, so you can see we're getting a little squeeze out at the top there. That seam is really up snug. But there you go. We've got, the side is glued up. I just let that sit. There's no real need for like squaring or alignment. These match up so nicely with the corresponding one because all these parts and pieces were cut, with stops and jigs, and then I used the multi-router for the mortise and tenons, so there's not like a lot of slop in there. And that is an interesting system because it cuts the mortise and tenons off of a center line. Instead of you having to mark both ends, you just mark the center line, and of all your locations, whether it's a tenon or a mortise, and it just gets you right spot on once you set up the stops on the machine. All right, so that's all there is to it. You just got to go ahead and get those glued up like that. And then you can, after that, I clean that up and I make sure all my surfaces are flush. And I'll go ahead and sand that whole assembly, every edge that needs sanding and breaking, while it's just the half. So then I end up pegging it as well while it's just the half, and then I can put it onto our, let's get our blanket on the floor here. So if we set this down, you can see.
Mark's curious, is it an option to glue up the back legs to the backrest, then add the armrest, front leg, and seat stretcher?
Yeah, you could do it that order, Mark, as well. I just felt like it simplified it. You could go ahead and put the back legs on the ends there, but for the final glue up, I just found that would take away one little element, but then you're going to have to be having clamps come this way and this way. The nice thing about this final glue up is you just have 3 clamps the long way on the long rails if you go in this order. But yeah, you can do it. You can do it a lot of different ways. This is a little tricky because that center rail is in there. If we come down here, I want to get this apart. This whole back assembly is already glued up. These sides are glued up, they're sanded, and they're pegged. So that saves you that amount of work. And then here's our center rail. Okay, so we've got to get that in there too. So getting that in with the ends, if you're trying to glue all the sides and ends with this and then the long way across the front, it would be a little more technical, but you could go, maybe there's another way you could do it in stages that would make it a little simpler. So this, I like this method because I'm just going to glue these twin tenons. Look at those. That's a pretty slick joint, huh? I mean, this was also cut.
That's what I was thinking.
On the multi-router.
Slick.
See that? So with a spacer jig, and so you get that really nice double strength in there, and the tenons are running with the grain. You wouldn't want to put them perpendicular to the grain. You just don't get the same amount of strength that way, and you don't get the good glue surface side grain to side grain. So let me take this up here. All right, so I know I've got to get glue on these tenons. I can do that. I like doing the mortises first just to get the glue in the mortise and let it stay like puddled in there. Run it down the sidewalls and then go around, get it on the tenons, and then come back and quickly brush it out on everything. So you're always agitating the glue. You don't really give it a chance to skin over by coming back and hitting again. Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
We're going for it. We're going to go ahead and start into all these mortises. Let it run down the sides. The good thing about gluing up is there's no like messing around. You have to get it done.
Did you consider using teak, and do you know how much that would cost? Uh-oh. What did I just hit? Oh, it's good.
Yeah, teak would be incredibly expensive. I did not consider that. I think that's probably close to over $30 a board foot. Someone can
Wow.
check on that, right? Let's keep going. I'm gonna get it in here. And now we'll get some on these tenons. So let's see. I'll go ahead on these.
Andrew says the Lee frame mortise and tenon jig also uses a center line for the joiner.
Nice.
That's interesting to you.
The Lee frame mortise and tenon. I'm not familiar with it. Is that like the Lee dovetail jig? They have their own. I'm not familiar with theirs. I knew they had the dovetail thing.
Michelle's curious how much the multi-router costs.
You could look at it on the Woodpecker's website. What's their website? Is it singularwoodpecker.com?
Yeah, you can just search it, but it's Woodpecker. There's another word in there.
It's not cheap. It really, you have to justify it by having multiples, but if you had like a limited production runs, that's where it really shines, because the base unit is about $3,000, and then you add bells and whistles and cutters and templates and that you would like. You can get pneumatic hold downs, a digital scale, so you can get up there. But keep in mind that if you had a project, I used to think about this But I never took the plunge when I was building furniture because I didn't really make that many things over and over again. But if I did, you could justify it because you'd say, all right, I have this cost, but then I still have the machine that's worth a strong resale. I was always looking at those on the resale market the last 25 years, and they were always still strong value. So it's almost like you're renting it, but for a lot less if you've got good use for it, you know? Or maybe you just, I guess we're always renting everything, right? We don't take anything with us.
It's all on loan.
Right. All right, so I gotta keep going. I'm gonna get this quickly smeared in these mortises. This is why you don't wanna fit these too slammed up tight, because they'll start to get a little more tacky and you have trouble fitting things.
I don't know how you can talk and do this at the same time.
Oh, it's just, can you hear my voice getting more stressed?
No.
So, but one of the things that I mentioned a second ago was definitely do a dry fit and pull it up with the clamps. That helps you in two very key ways. First of all, make sure that everything is aligned and you haven't missed anything and all those mortise and tenons are going to go together. But it also helps you get prepared for your assembly and your clamping. So you get the clamps set out there and you're good to go. See, now when I'm going back over these, I can feel the glue is starting to thicken a little bit. But because I'm agitating again, I'm getting more time. So I'm hitting these one more time here, and then I'm gonna do a quick assembly of the whole thing. All right, so just get that all buttered nicely, all these tenons, and there we go. Now, the way we're gonna work this is we're gonna go use the floor because it's just too big. We'll set one of our sides on the floor. And I gotta get my long rail with my middle rail. And I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. There we go. Now I can take this assembly up and set it in alignment. Can you see that?
Yep.
The camera? Mm-hmm. Okay. There we go. Yes, that went in nicely. And now, let's pull one across that middle. We got to make sure this is pulled in so that the ends will be, that looks great. Now we'll have these should align nicely. And we'll just get this down on here. Go. And on the top, I'll get my mallet. Oh, on the floor. Okay, so that's a beautiful thing. Went together nicely. Now let's get those long clamps on there. This is where we just need 3 long clamps. So let's go across the front here. Oh, that's nice. Seeing those shoulders squeeze up nicely. That looks good. Looks good down there. Okay, now I got to get along the back. These long Bessie clamps are awesome for this because they have those good square jaws on them. Let's set it. Okay, just kind of angle it across that Try to keep it level. And we're looking to see those shoulders squeeze up nicely. They're pulling up great. I'm gonna go across the front here. Okay. All those shoulders look good. And I'm gonna put it straight down the top like this.
Amazing.
All right, check that out. It's looking good. Now, one of the really nice things about this is how strong those heavy-shouldered, beefy rails are. You've got those big shoulders of all of these mortise and tenons, and I'm going to come in here with the rag this time. I don't really want to chip it away in these key areas, and we'll just get it where, so I can see a little squeeze out here. Not much. Use the rag, wrap it in the putty knife, jam it right in there. On the front here. And what was I just talking about? Oh, the strengthening factor of the shoulders, these mortise and tenons. It's just rock solid. And then we'll add in those. I'm going to put pegs from the back here. I'm not going to put a peg in through the front. I guess you could, but I like to get it closer, and I've got a little roundedness on this front. So I'm going to keep that clean and drive the peg in from the back there, and then put one in from the back behind that rail as well, and in the front. So it'll look pretty sweet, like be surprisingly well made for outdoor furniture. All right, so that looks good. I think beautiful. Got just a little bit back here. But I've made the seat slats. I haven't put those on yet. Those will actually, I just screw those on. I countersink and run stainless steel countersink screws down through them, and just 3 screws on each. And it works well. And with the gaps between the slats, it allows, the rain to run off easily. So nothing's really holding water, and just sheds water. It's larger than I thought, this whole thing, but here's my slats. I'm just gonna temporarily place these. They're about 1 5/8 wide by like 13/16 thick, and they'll go right in here. After I'll pre-drill them and screw them down. I just want to see this thing all rigged up. But let's just see
likely in the woods.
How it sits.
Is a through peg stronger than a blind peg?
Nice. A through peg? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. When you think about it, you're drilling through the whole leg element, so you could be weakening it, but it's such a small hole, it really wouldn't matter that much. When I drill and set the pegs, I go fully through the tenon and a good 1/4 inch or more into the other side. So you're getting a full peg support on both sides through. But this is nice. It sits nicely. I mean, it's comfy. It has a good kind of pitch to it. And, that's the way I made it. So it's not like a vertical, but it's got a nice recline to it. So for finish on this, you're sticking this thing outside. I mean, think about it. In the house, you're usually cautious about putting furniture near the window because of how it gets, sunburnt out, it gets faded. Well, now you're finishing a piece of furniture and you're sitting it out in the sun, the rain, the weather, cold, hot nights, whatever it is. So it takes a lot of abuse. And the more I read about this, the more you have to almost accept the fact that you're going to have to stay on top of these maintenance-wise. And that's why I decided to just go finally over to paint with my swing project, because that initial spar varnish had just degraded so much. It's just time to go to paint. But with these, I was trying to decide what to go with. I didn't really want to paint over the nice looking Cypress, and had some great comments. There's different types of epoxy type finishes that you can use, but they're pricey, and you still have to put on a lot, and then you have multiple coats, so there's a labor intensive application, and then you still have to maintain them. Maybe not quite as soon, but you still have to do it. So I had some great suggestions all around, and I decided to go with almost like a deck or siding stain for these. For a gallon, it's less than $25. So I'm gonna cover these, and you cover 2 coats, one after another. So while it's still wet, you're putting on the second coat, and that's it for, hopefully a couple years or more, and then I'll just do it again. It's low price. I'm not saying this as someone with a lot of experience with outdoor finishes. I'm telling you why I chose it. Price point wise, maintenance wise, you gotta do it anyway. So I'm just gonna use this. And this is, I had a choice between the clear or the cedar, and I thought I'd go with the cedar. It gives you this color here, and they'll have a nice natural look. They'll look great out there with the green background. And that's what I'm gonna go with, is a product like this. All right, everybody, well, that was fun. We got some work done, and hopefully that helped in some way with your thinking about gluing up procedures. And remember, if you want to go further with us, we've got so much content that you can connect to through our website at epicwoodworking.com, and you can check out all the courses there. All right, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us again.
Thank you.
Here in Canterbury, and hope you enjoyed that, and have some fun in your glue up adventures as well.